Hey, everybody. Welcome to From Boots to Suits, Life After the Military, the podcast dedicated to helping those veterans that are transitioning or people that have been transitioning in the last year, 2 years, transitioning to that civilian world where that journey can be oftentimes challenging and very complex. Want to give you all the tools out there and resources and share not only stories of other veterans that have been there, but share different ways of getting to a level of success, whatever that level of success looks like for you. I'm your host. I'm John, former paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division, former Army recruiter, now working in the corporate scene in talent acquisition and people operations. This is my brother, Glenn Jr. Say hello.
What's going on? What's going on? I'm Glenn Jr., Aviation Ordnance, VFA 1 and 46 is where I dwelled, and now I'm into enforcement. Yeah, let's go.
Let's go, man. Hey, real quick, I just want to tell everyone thank you so much for all of those that have been supporting us right out the gate. We've gotten so much love from all of you guys, and we greatly appreciate all the support, all the shares, all the likes, and honestly, even all the messages that we received over the last week, after we shared episode 1, where I dove into my story and gave you a little bit of background on why we're doing what we're doing and what we're here for. So many people from different walks of life saying, man, I had no idea you were going through that. Or, man, once upon a time, I went through something very similar. And I was like, man, I had no idea. It's just wild.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that just giving great feedback, and we appreciate that. And then starting to drop their stories. And that's what makes this so encouraging, right? We're out here trying to just serve and help and give out our story and give out some information. And that stuff is coming right back to us quickly. And I'm loving it. Let's keep it coming.
Yeah. And honestly, like, there is not only people saying, hey, man, thank you for sharing your story, or I had no idea, or can I tell you my story, but also so many people ready to jump on board and tell their stories.
Yes.
And, not only their stories, but share, what they're doing, how they got there, and just be a part of this movement that we're creating with From Boots to Suits. And honestly, like this, we've had a lot of conversation about what we envision and where we envision it to go. And it's just going so quickly. But I could never imagine how quickly things have really taken off for us. So thank you guys.
Appreciate you
from the bottom of our heart. Yeah. And then also I've had a lot of people in the TA world and talent acquisition, recruiting world. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, hey, how can we help? How can we support? And it's like, hey, here's an idea. Let's put together a virtual workshop of, let's just start it simple, resume writing and interview techniques, things like that. And so they're like, we're on board, let's do it. So we're trying to get something put together for Q1 of 2025, which will make happen virtual. We'll figure out the platform and all that good stuff. But I think that'll be a huge thing for us to kick it off right out the gate of giving these tools of, just simply how to write your resume and, how to apply for a job, how to interview in that job, how to show up, all those things from some of today's subject matter experts in this field, right? I think that's going to be huge for us.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have the tools, and we're going to provide you with those tools to be successful as possible while preparing for your interview, getting yourself ready for the interview, the resume writing, where it all starts. That's the ground zero of gathering all your information and teaching you how to put it down on paper.
Yeah.
And formatting it in the correct format, because no one's going to look it up and go try to figure it out for you.
Yeah, that's
once it gets sent in.
Yeah.
So it needs to come in sharp.
Well, even to the point of, not just formatting, but in today's world of EEOC, of understanding the things that you can and should put on your resume and the things you shouldn't put on your resume, so that you don't fall into a category of what we call in the recruiting world unconscious bias, which is a very real thing, and we do a lot of training around it. But a lot of times we don't even realize that we have this unconscious bias, and there's been many case studies and tests that we've done over it, and you find like, wow, like I really was biased on this person's resume and I didn't even mean to, and this is all, in study that we're doing it, and you learn like how not to do those things. But also from a resume writing standpoint, you want to give those tools out so that you don't accidentally put yourself into a trap of being put into a unconscious bias situation and not even know it. And honestly, it could be a junior recruiter that's looking at it and they didn't even know they were putting you in that category. So, some of those things like that we'll definitely target in this workshop. But also, I also had several franchisees reach out and say, hey, I want to share how a veteran can become a business owner right out of the gate and teach them how to do it so that they can run their own business and be very successful and get the resources. And I think that's awesome as well, right?
Yes, great jewels. Those are jewels.
Those
jewels already, guys.
Yeah,
jewels are coming.
It's coming fast, but we appreciate you guys. And we wanted to share some of these exciting things that are happening as we kick off this week's show. But, really we wanted to dive into our stories and the way we got to where we are at and still where we're going and the things that we still work through. And no matter how long you've been out, no matter how long, you've gone through whatever it is you've gone through, there's still always work to be put in. Right. And so today we're kicking it off with Mr. Glenn Jr. He's going to share a lot about his roadmap to where he is today.
Yes. Boy, where do we begin? I guess we begin at boot camp. Man, I went to boot camp in 1999, March of 99. I was 20 years old, was going to college, junior college, and it really wasn't my thing at the moment. High school, I was a good student, but I worked very hard to be the student that I was in high school. I was a good football player, pretty good, recruited by a lot of different schools when I lived in San Diego, which was a great experience, right? But due to injuries, and that ended up not being my path. So getting to junior college, it was all right to be there. But again, like the schooling itself wasn't a passion of mine at that moment. I was doing a lot of it on my own and didn't have real support with the schooling. It was like, hey man, you're 18 now, you figure it out. And I don't think I was mentally prepared to figure it out. Joining the Navy was a great option for me. Joined the Navy and got to boot camp, and boot camp was fairly easy, no big deal. I went to A school in Pensacola, Florida for aviation ordnance. From there, traveled over to my C school in Virginia, had a blast, and then it was off to the fleet, right, to my squadron. And it was pretty funny. Like, I don't even remember the first squadron I was in because I was only in there for, I think, maybe 2 weeks. Yeah, I got there, and next thing you know, a guy comes down and says, hey, you got to go upstairs. So I go upstairs, and the guy's like, hey, you want the good news or the bad news? I'm like, well, give me the good news. He's like, the good news is you're getting out of this ratty squadron. Bad news is you're going a couple of doors down, and you're going out to sea soon. So I was like, well, that's great, because I picked to come to Lemoore. I was one of the top in my class. So they wrote on the board a couple of the classes that stations that was available. And Lemoore was one that I wanted to go to because it's kind of close to home, just a few hours away. And I don't think I was really ready to go far off at that moment. And so, I went out to sea, had a great time, came back. And I'm just kind of speeding through this thing so you guys, it's not a lull. But yeah, get out to sea, have a great time doing that. Turned 21 out there, had a blast, but I messed up a few things, right? And I was telling my son this, who's graduating next week from Navy boot camp. I said, hey, man, when you get out to sea, man, make sure you need to find the ones that are going to go out and go do all the fun stuff. They're going to go do all the adventurous stuff, or find some guys that want to go do the adventures, because I missed it all. I went to Korea, seen nothing but the bar, right? Hong Kong, seen nothing but, the thing I remember about Hong Kong the most is you can drink at McDonald's. You can buy beer at McDonald's. That was what I got out of Hong Kong. Great, right? You're 20 years old. You could have went and seen a whole lot, but I know the beer at McDonald's, right? Yeah. Carlsberg beer. Great. Good on you. Australia, hit a few spots. Malaysia. Had an excellent time. Learned a lot. Met some really, really great people who I'm still friends with today. That brotherhood, it's probably unmatched, man. To be a part of this fraternity, I guess, of men and women that serve is just amazing. And like I said last time, I wasn't a great patriot per se when I was in. I was young, didn't understand really what I was doing. I just knew I was in, right? And then it was years later after getting out and just understanding what I accomplished and the things that I was doing for the country was amazing. And so I'm just it's just been an honor since that. Yeah. And then I guess, man, I, get to meet getting out of the military. It wasn't a choice of mine. I actually wanted to stay and do 20 plus if I could. That was my goal. My goal was to beat my dad. My dad ended up finished as a chief. I was like, well, if I can get one step past him, senior chief, then man, I did that, right? But while doing workups, we were loading the missile under the wing of the aircraft, and there was me and another buddy on the aft end, good friend of mine, love him to death, and then a team leader and two in the front. Well, my buddy on the back end of this thing slipped out of his hands. I don't know. I'm just 6'4" on a good day, 6'3" on a bad day. So I was kind of bent over in an odd position.
Yeah.
And when I took the weight of that missile, I heard a nice big pop in my back. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end, bro. Yeah. Yeah. So from there, was going back and forth to the doctor. And then they deemed me that I needed to step out of the aviation field. So I went and became an AZ, was a records clerk. Did that, taught myself, because the guy that I was, he was training me, he was transitioning out.
Yeah. What was that like for you to go from a job where you were, loading missiles, a little bit more frontline-ish, to, going into a support operation, as a clerk? Like, what was that like for you, not only for you to make that transition, but mentally, because now it's like, I'm not up there with my crew. I'm not up there with my guys. I'm behind the scenes now.
Yeah, it was a little weird at first because I didn't understand what I was doing. But once I got a grasp on the job, I still felt like I was attached to them because I controlled and scheduled all the maintenance to PMs on the bomb skids
Gotcha.
that were around the institution. So
Okay.
I was going, to hang out with all the guys anyway, and then I would see them at the barracks. So it was like I was still one of them.
Right.
And I was still in the aviation world. So I was like, oh, well, this is not that bad. Right. And then start learning. Then I started learning so much that I was like, well, what if I could just become an AZ then? Right. And then I'm still here. And then if I can transition back to my squadron, I could transition back as an AZ. It should be fine. But that didn't happen. And in between that, little tidbit for people that don't know, I used to do music. And so at that point, we were doing music around Fresno and Bay Area and just traveling with some pretty big people. We did stuff with Juvenile, Blue Cantrell, did shows with Trick Daddy. So things were happening.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, well, I'm doing this, but I'm also doing this and I'm moving around. So this is great, right? Meeting people from different record labels, from Interscope Records and stuff like that, and their street team. And because I kind of helped and ran the street team for the small record label that I was a part of. So things were just happening. It was like, oh yeah, well, I'm not necessarily with my squadron anymore, but I'm doing this AZ work. And then the guys I'm rolling with, we have song on the radio. So while we're working outside, the song's coming on the radio, right?
Yeah.
Which is my friends, right? So it was great. And so I remember 9/11 hit, and I was living in my apartment off base, and I'm coming on, and obviously I'm a youngster still, so I'm not really watching the news. That wasn't really my thing, right? So I pop up in time, take a shower, and go to work. So I come to the base, come to the gate, and it's all barricaded off, right?
Yeah.
Everything, you're going through a slalom just to get onto the base, right? All these barricades and checkpoints, and it's just nuts. And so I get to work, and just mayhem. And then probably a week or so later, they're like, hey, you're gonna go back to 146 and you're going out to sea. And I'm like, how? I have no back. Like I'm still injured, but I don't mind being in some support role. Like I want to be a part of what is going on.
Right.
But I don't think I can be out there in the capacity that I'm in now. There's no way I'm gonna be able to hang out there. And it was shortly after that get noticed that you're gonna be out.
Was that like a medical discharge, or?
Yeah, so they gave me an honorable discharge with the RE4 code, I believe, which basically just says you're all good. You're good enough soldier per se, but you can't come back because of your injury. And so I was released from the military in December. So just a few months after 9/11. And it was very difficult at that time because I didn't have a plan. Like I never planned to get out. And just to rewind back a little bit, I also asked if I could do the AZ work. Like I know I'm supposed to be an AO, but what if I can just be an AZ, right? And then I can stay because this is office work. And then when I need to stand up, I can stand and, walk around.
Yeah.
But I just can't do the work in that capacity
Yeah.
over there. So I want to stay, and I was denied that.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
What was the injury on your back? What was like the outcome of that?
So initially it was my L4, 3, L5, 4, and 3. And then as time went on, it was T11, T12, S1. I have degenerative hips.
And was all of that because of like overcompensating for the initial injury, or?
Yes, over time it just my body just began to break down. So
Yeah.
because I'm, doing so much and still trying to be available, right? Like I got a family, so it's like hard to like, they're like, well, how often do you take off from work because of it? Well, I don't have the ability to do that. I got to go to work. My family, I got to provide. So no matter how hurt I am, I'm going unless it's just I can't get up. But there's things that I can't do. Like when my daughters were young, I couldn't give them a bath. Even just to be on my knees and reaching over the tub to watch them wash them would be a problem. Like my situation is a little bit difficult because like even when I go to get an MRI, normally they want to elevate your legs to release the pressure of the low back. That bothers me. So I have to do it, but I'll have back spasms in the MRI. Right. Because elevating me doesn't work. That's not a great position for me to be in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just was, the transition was difficult because I didn't have a plan, because I didn't initially, I didn't want to get out. And then I pretty much felt like I was being forced out due to a situation, which I understood the situation, right? Like we're in it now. It's war. Like something just happened to Americans on American soil. Like it's on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no going back from this. We got to go take care of business, and I'm not available to do so. So I understood where they were coming from because of my job title, but I wanted to move to something else where I could still be a part of the military and help out with the operations as I could. Right. And being in that seat, I could.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't the idea at that time. So yeah, I got out and
but you're still hurt, right?
I'm probably worse now.
Yeah.
For sure. And that was, I got out in 1.
And so you got discharged, while you were hurt, and having to not only try to navigate life now from that point, but also navigate with these newly accrued injuries that you've had over the last couple of months.
Yeah. So there was, I think that's where the mental breakdown really started, because I was no longer had that team and that support, and I was out in the world pretty much by myself. I had no direction. I had no real skill. So I didn't know where I was going. There was no employment for aviation ordnancemen.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't stay in long enough really to generate those relationships to be a contractor, and didn't have enough knowledge to even, to be to contract to work in that arena. Right. And then don't have the body to work, to do it anyway. So I don't have the knowledge enough to do the job, nor do I have the physical aptitude to do the job at all neither. So I'm just out here in the world. What do I do now? Right. And school still wasn't, it was an option, but it wasn't something that I was like really wanting to do because I needed money. It's like, man, I need to do something, and school wasn't going to pay for an apartment, a lifestyle, right? My body's broke, but I still want to live, and I'm a youngster. And so I was just jumping from job to job, job to job, job to job. And eventually I had to end up moving home, but I moved home with a bunch of anger issues and things that I didn't realize I had, just partying, drinking, and just upset, and I just thought I became that guy. Like, I'm just a mad person. Sometimes I would think that's not really your attitude. That's not who you are as a person, but it's just what I thought I was becoming. And I just took hold of that.
Yeah.
And so that was a rough period.
How long did that period go on for you?
Oh, man, to be honest with you, man, I was beat up mentally and still have some issues, right, that linger. But it wasn't until I met my wife. Like, being with my ex-wife, I had these issues, but she had her own traumas, I had mine, and I don't think either one of us seen what it was. Like,
right.
Maturation and how we became a couple was just through a friendship. And so we just built it off of friendship. And then one day it was just over. It just seemed like it was just over. We like ran the course, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I probably wasn't the best of dude at all. I was an enabler for her, and then she was an enabler for me. So once we split and went our own ways, I think we both grew. So it was after that divorce,
right,
that I started growing a little bit, but I still had problems that I was never taken care of because I didn't realize I had any problem. I thought I was okay. I'm a little mad, right? If somebody says something a little bit off to me, I'm just going, I'm upset. And whatever happens.
right.
But a lot of times I knew that, like, why are you doing that? It's not the way you were brought up.
Right.
It's not who your dad is. It's definitely not who your mom is. It's not you. That's not how you roll. And so it wasn't until I met my wife, Regina, that, and I always tell her, I said, you found a guy that was on the curb, ready to be picked up, just trash. Because I was broken, seriously broken, from my body to my mental state. Didn't have my son full time, right? I'm in his life. I can pick him up every day. I'm doing those things,
right,
but he doesn't live with me, right? And then I'm renting a room after my divorce. I'm renting a room from my buddy, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, because I don't have anywhere to go. I'm paying all this stuff over here. And so I'm a good buddy of mine. He's like, well, come over here. You're good. So I'm sharing that. And then when my son comes, my son takes over the room I'm renting, and then I'm downstairs on the couch so he can have his own space, right? And so my wife comes into my life, and which was a really good thing, because again, I was just on the curb, man. I was done and didn't know I was done, and she was able to come and kind of dust me off a little bit, see some things in me, and bring some good qualities out of me, and then along with that, she was able to help me and pinpoint some things in my life that were not straight and guide me to go get the necessary help that I needed to get, which was a plus and a minus, right? So I go get help and I seek counseling, and then they give me medicine. And not only did they give me medicine, but then over like a 2-month period, they max me out. More. Here you go. You need more.
Yeah.
You need more. But it wasn't helping. It was just a masking of everything.
Yes.
And then when I was coming down, I felt like crap.
Yeah.
I was worse coming off of the pill because I could feel it than I was not taking it.
Right.
So I just cold turkey just weaned myself off it because they were like, if you take, you get off of it, there's things that could happen to you and this and that. And I just began to just like, nah.
The crazy thing about half of these medications that they want to give you, for depression or anxiety or, the Xanax and all that stuff, right? Like if you ever really look at like all the side effects, one of the major side effects of it is breaking down and suicide. They tell you, if you ever feel like you're going to harm yourself, you need to seek medical attention immediately. It's like, why are you giving me something that could increase the possibility of me doing what I might already be thinking I might want to do? Or the other side is the getting off of it is far more dangerous than getting on it.
Yeah, yeah. And I was the biggest, I was the biggest front ever. Biggest front, man. I made it look good. I made it look good. I go to work every day, you know, and when I get around the kids, because I worked at the high school and I coach football, get around them, I was very supportive and helping them grow, giving them great advice, trying to move them forward. And I wasn't the one just to leave them on the football field. Hey, after we're done coaching and the season's over, I don't care. I'm not worried about you no more.
Mhm.
You know, I stuck with these kids and you know, working on the campus, just trying to be that guide for them. But in my own self, dying. You know, I got a buddy that used to call me knowledge, and because I would give everybody this great advice and never stuck to none of it for myself. Never. I can give you all the game. But for me, it was just like, whatever. You know, I never listened to myself. And so it was just bad. Just bad. And you know, obviously now I'm on a bigger journey in a better space. And again, I owe a lot of it to my wife. And then I got, you know, the beautiful kids, and my son's grown up. And, you know, being in the gym has been big for me, right? That's my time. It's my time to relax and decompress and figure it out, you know, because I work in a pretty stressful environment.
Yeah.
And so dealing with the phone calls and stuff that I have to deal with every day, and the emails I have to deal with every day, it can get pretty stressful. But I'm able to box those things in and put things that need to go in the recycle bin. I got this little thing where this we can put in the recycle bin because we can grab this out later. This is absolutely trash. We need to get rid of this right now. And then one of the mechanisms that I use a lot is, my wife has tailored this a little bit better for me. Because if we're in an argument or a heated discussion, and that's with anybody, if I say I need to walk, I'm out, let me be out, right? But she's like, you can't just be out. Like that, you still need to have that conversation with that person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
you just can't walk away from it and let it sit.
Yeah, because it's never fixed.
Right.
You know, so
it'll bother you.
It'll bother me because, man, like, I'm a big apologist, right? I'll apologize, but then I get mad at myself for apologizing because I'm like, man, why am I apologizing? I didn't do nothing wrong, but I don't want problems.
Yeah.
So since I don't want problems,
well, you're a people pleaser, right? Like, you love pleasing people. I'm the same way. Like, I hate confrontation.
Yeah.
I absolutely despise confrontation.
Yes.
I'm not that person, but oftentimes you find yourself apologizing when you really shouldn't be apologizing, but you just want to get through whatever that uncomfortableness is, or you know, whatever that situation is, and you want to mend it, right? You don't want to leave things broken, or you know, you don't want to leave things for assumption either, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, all that has happened along my journey, being in the military, getting out of the military. I want everybody to know, I wouldn't have helped my son get in the Navy if I wouldn't go back myself. Like, I loved it.
Yeah.
The more I look back on it, it's like, man, this was good. This was good. It was good for me. The structure was amazing. I needed that structure, right? I'm a sports guy.
Yeah.
I know, like, in order to play football, I got to have these grades. Not only was my dad, but my dad was pretty tough. My dad was a valedictorian, and it was easy. School came easy to him.
Right.
Like, he didn't have to study. My mom says, "You're so smart, you're dumb," right? Because he's just brilliant. So he was tough on me with it. He was a instructor in the Navy. So he would literally take my homework, correct it, and then when I got up in the morning, I had to fix it and not miss the bus. Right? He was tough. Take your paper, ball it up. You can't write how you talk. Right? So people be like, "Oh, you got good penmanship." This is the reason why I got good penmanship, because my dad was tough. But at some point he was like, "Hey, man, it's all you now. Like, you have to go figure this thing out."
Right.
And I was able to. After a while, I was able to, you know, find stuff that I was passionate about. I went and worked at the prison, which was fun. But the only way I got to the prison is because of my friends, right? They worked at the prison. So they're like, "Hey, man, you need to get some of this money." Yeah. That's what they were saying to me. Like, I'd hang out with them. I was bumming, right? And they was like, "Hey, man, you need to come get some of this money," you know? And I said, you know, after a while, had the application for a while, filled it out, turned it in, went to the prison. And that was a great experience, right? But then get to the prison and I'm hurt again, right?
And Were you hurt again because you never got fixed from the first injury, or?
No, this was I hurt my shoulder.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I hurt my shoulder, and then that was, and when I was working at the prison, I wasn't 100% for my ailments. Get a job at the prison, hurt my shoulder, my rotator cuff in half. Didn't realize my shoulder was torn in half. So over time, it was funny because I got hurt, and then I was like, it's summertime, cool, I'm hurt, we'll get fixed and go back. Never went back. And now I can't like lift my arm up, past my ear without going down. Or when I shake hands, I reach around to shake hands instead of just dive forward, right? So like just a broken body.
Yeah.
A broken body. So did all that, end up going to the high school, loved coaching. Like that was a great passion of mine. Loved it. Did all that, worked at the high school, and then was able to do some great things there, especially during COVID and being to implement some things where we would drive to kids' houses. Told the principal, hey, give us a list. Some of these kids have no way of getting over here to turn in a book, or, let's go do some welfare checks, right?
It's huge.
Let's see what's going on in some of these houses, man, and go touch bases and see if these parents need anything. Because some of these parents is going to work, and now you got some of these kids that really the only structure they had was going to school, right? And some of them, to get their meals, the only meals they were getting was to come to school. Right? They didn't have means to get back and forth like that. So to be able to implement some of those things and to go to these houses was great. And then we got here to Texas.
Yeah, because y'all got here like right after COVID, right?
Yeah. We came here in 2021.
Yeah.
Probably the best thing we've could have ever done.
Yeah.
The best thing we could have ever done. It was a little shocker coming here, working in Austin, doing some government projects in Austin, which was great work. But man, y'all rain is crazy. Like in Cali, it rains, but people ain't stopping on the freeway, right? With the hazard lights on.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Like the driving to Austin from here wasn't an issue for me.
Right.
Like I can do that. But the weather, and then if back then I had the Cali license plates on, so that didn't help. And then the weather was just nuts, so I ended up coming back down, man, and getting a job closer to the house. And
yeah, at the university,
nice.
right?
At the university, working at Texas State. It's been good.
Yeah,
it's been
that's
good.
what's up, man.
Yeah, it's been good, man.
Was it all of, when you started seeking counseling, was it the counseling that made you ultimately realize like all of these things that you had been masking for probably over a decade at that point?
Yeah.
Was it like, how did that get pulled out of you? Was it just like through conversation, or?
I started having some conversations with the gentleman there at the VA, which was some pretty good information and some good talks. And then I started really opening up to the wife about some of the things, and she was a good help. And then ultimately, I started just steering towards God. And having these conversations with God created these, where I used to do, and I should get back into it again, but I used to do self-examination Sundays. And on Sundays, I would sit in the garage or in the backyard, and I would just sit out there and examine myself and any flaws that happened that prior week. And I had to be brutally honest with myself for goals that I wanted, the things that I'd done that week, whether they were productive or not. And then what do we do moving forward, right? Those things are gone. Now we got Monday's anew. What are we going to do to set up the next week? So it was that, my wife, God, going to church, all that stuff accumulating together, putting it together, really, really helped me out. Really helped me out. I know for a fact, doing my church stuff and getting in tune with my word, bro, like that got me off the pills. That got me off the pills. Like they ask me all the time, well, what do you do now? I just talk to God, man. Because like I can't fix any of this. I can't fix anything. Any of my anger issues, anything that I'm going through, I can't fix it. I just leave it up to him, man. And it's worked out good for me.
Right.
And people have to find, their outlet, and that's mine, man.
Yeah.
That's mine.
And, and I say this to folks all the time, like, you got to find a higher power.
Yes.
Like, regardless if that's God for you, or it's the universe for somebody else, or whatever it is, right? You just got to find that higher power that you wholeheartedly believe in, and can open up to find that spiritual wellness is really what it boils down to. Is like a spiritual wellness to find, that next level for you and the next thing for you, and oftentimes, like, guys get so stuck in their own ways, and they get in their own way, and they don't ever accomplish that. They never find that higher power, that spiritual well-being, or whatever it could be, that outlet.
Yeah.
And also they don't have the fortitude to look at themselves and say, man, I'm really messing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have these, we got kids and we're responsible, and somebody's dependent on us, man. I just tell the kids at the high school that, one, you're popular. You're a cool kid. No, I'm not. Yes, you're a cool kid to somebody on this campus. I guarantee you. Yeah. Somebody on this campus wants to be just like you, right? And here you are. You just walk around because you think you're absolutely not that person. And then other than that, you got little brothers and sisters, cousins. Somebody's depending on you. Somebody's watching you. And so knowing somebody's watching me really helps, because they need me, man. Like, my kids need me. My wife needs me. Other people around me need me. My neighbors, they need me, right? Yeah. There's things that I can accomplish for my neighbors. There's somebody at the store. I had a conversation the other day at graduation with the lady, and she needed me at a moment, right? So there's always an opportunity for somebody that needs you. And in having conversation with people, now you get to see that you need them as well. And they can drop something in you and impart something in you that changes the course of where you're going, right? And it's when you look at it, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, like, sometimes when I'm having a conversation with somebody and they give me this wisdom or knowledge that I wasn't even asking for or looking for, but then I'm walking away like, man, that really made sense. And then that sticks with me. And, like, for instance, something that a mentor of mine, guy is brilliant. He's up there in age, and this guy is still running 100-mile races a couple of times a year. This guy has run. He did 7 marathons in 7 countries in, like, less than 30 days, something crazy like that. A couple of years ago. Like, this guy is brilliant. Mm-hmm. And one thing that he told me that really just, I've, like, held on to, and I've got, also, he does like 1 billion push-ups a year, like, no joke. Like, he does an absurd amount of push-ups every year. He sets a goal, and it comes out to, like, hundreds of thousands of push-ups that he does. But I asked him one time, I said, how do you do that? Like, how are you so dedicated to something so simple like push-ups or running or whatever the case may be? And he's like, a lot of times people, they ask me, like, what is your superpower, or, like, whatever the case may be. And he's like, what it really boils down to is I have the courage to commit to consistency.
Wow.
And, like, dude, I was like, that's just mind blowing. Like, I've held on to that because, like, if you think about it, like, having the courage to commit to be consistent at one thing or 2 things, whatever it is, just being consistent in it. Like, oftentimes you get on this hype. We're like, yeah, we're going to do whatever it is. We're going to do it. I'm going to do it. And you start off excited, but what happens when the excitement ends? You go right back to where you began, and for a lot of people, a lot of veterans, a lot of, everyday people, they start off strong, but they don't finish strong. They fall into the system. They fall into these gaps. They fall into where, everybody has that excitement when they're getting out. They're like, for the most part, most people have that excitement when they're getting out. They're like, hell yeah, I'm getting out. I don't got to shave anymore. I don't got to, wear this uniform anymore. You're like, all jokes aside, they're going to miss it at one point. They say that on the surface, but then the excitement's gone. And then they start to fall into these trends, into these statistics, into all these other things. But it's like, if we all just had the courage to commit to consistency in one thing, whatever that one thing may be for you, we might just be a little bit better at where we're going.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. right? Because my brain runs a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like I like a lot of stuff, but love very minimal stuff. Like I want to do this, and then I want to do that, and I want to do this. All the time I'll be like, man, I need to be a millionaire. Not because I just need the bread, but I want to be a millionaire because I need to be able to do multiple things of whatever I want to do. That's not how I feel sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
because I just like to do so much, and my brain runs so many different ways.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do, we can go, you know? And so being consistent in those one or two things is really great. Like I get up every single morning,
Right.
3:15, 3 to 3:15 every day. I make the same oatmeal. I make the same eggs for the most part, right? And then I'm off to the gym every day. And that's one of my consistencies that's really been great for me. But man, if I can just get my brain to slow down,
Well, I mean, think about it though. Like you committed to something a year ago and then you went and did it.
Yeah.
You know, like
that was huge.
That was huge. And like watching you go through that and watching you build and to go into that competition was amazing to see all the transformation and all the hard work and not just the hard work, but the dedication and to get there and to see you get there. Like that's mind blowing.
Yeah.
We'll share what he did sometime down the road, but it was amazing to watch it, you know, and you just said like, I'm doing this. Like you were stopping by the house one day.
Yeah.
You were dropping something off, or I can't remember what it was, and you're like, "Hey, man, I'm doing this competition, and I'm going." And I was like, "All right, cool, man. I'll see ya." And then you went and did it. I was like, "Dang, it's swole."
Well, that was the way to make myself be able to do it and couldn't turn back. Is I told everybody, anybody I walked up on, like we had a 2-minute conversation. You were going to know that at this point in time, I'm going to be doing this competition, right? So that way, if you ran into me again, there's like, oh, where's the pictures at least? Or why do you still look the same? You know? And so just putting it out in the world, I had no choice.
Yeah, no, you had to be, you're accountable to everybody.
It was on. And then I paid for it, right? Because I had to pay for each event. I had to pay for to be a part of the event. So now money is there, booked my hotel, right?
Investment.
And so the investment of it now is like, oh, here we go.
What was that like though? Because you know, you're basically doing a body transformation at this point, right? You're hitting the gym in a certain way and in a way that you can effectively do it because of your previous injuries. And you had a great trainer alongside you to help you navigate through that. But like, what was that like from from like a well-being standpoint, from a mental, standpoint? Like, did that help? Did that cleanse? Like,
oh, it put me in this space. Because now you're eating a certain way, so now it's fuel,
right?
And it really changes your brain function.
Yeah,
right. Once your gut gets cleaned out, right, everything that you put in and just this vibe across your body is unmatched. Like the mental peace, the sleep was different. Like everything changed.
Yeah.
Everything changed. Yeah. To go from the weight that I was at, 280 almost, down to 215 pounds, 5% body fat. Nuts, man. But I obviously had a great trainer and I couldn't put on as much muscle or anything that I would want to because I can't do some of the movements. So we had to, alternate some of the stuff to be able to do, but we got it done.
Yeah.
We got it done. And that's a life lesson in all of this, getting out of the military and what I was facing and not having any goals or didn't have a vision of where I was going. I stayed the course, and I kept moving forward and kept figuring things out along the way. And it got me to this space where I am now. And so everybody should know, like, when you're in, whether it's a mental, not a great space mentally, or you're trying to get somewhere and you don't have a real direction, just keep moving.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. You may not get up in the morning and I definitely didn't get up in the morning and went from almost 280 to 215. That was a 9-month process. That was bringing my own food to parties. There was something that I had to do. And so when you get yourself out of the military, there's something you have to do. And if you have the time to prepare for your release from the military, then you need to take ownership of that and take it very serious that, okay, in 6 months, I am not going to re-enlist, right? You're thinking about all these things a year out, maybe even throwing some applications out there at 6 months out,
Yeah.
you know, and going, let me just see what's out there. And if nothing is out there, then you might make the decision to stay in, you know, saving your money. Don't just go spend money all the time, especially if you're a year, 2 years out and you're thinking, well, I'm thinking about not staying. Well, now we need to start putting that check away, you know, putting some of it away so that way we have something.
Yeah.
You know, are you going to go to school? What's your living thing's going to be? Are you married? Can your wife sustain and support what's going on while you're going to school, or, you know, or you're trying to build your own business, et cetera, or vice versa? Can your husband sustain the family on just his check while you're going to go do the things that you're going to do?
Right.
These are things that we have to talk about as a family unit, or being single and getting out and the things that you want to go do.
Yeah. I mean, even just having that simple plan, right? Even just like kind of breaking it down to, you know, these are the jobs that I might apply for. You know, even I think just taking that a step backwards and dialing in, like, what are my transferable skills for the types of jobs that I want to apply for, right? Because not every job out there in the military is going to be applicable in the civilian world.
Yes.
You know, and for a lot of guys, a lot of men and women, they might say, I'm going to go into law enforcement, or I might be an EMT, or I might go into, you know, nursing or medicine, or, you know, what those other frontline services in the community. Understanding what your transferable skills are, and that's a huge thing that we'll talk about in that resume workshop that we're going to put together, is understanding how do you identify those transferable skills. And not only how do you identify them, but how do you write them in civilian language? Because the lingo that you know isn't transferable in itself. You know, that, you know, like, and so understanding and not just having goals, but thinking about what it is that you might want to do when you get into the civilian world. What is that job that you want to go into? Is it going back to school so that you can get the job? And then in the short term, what is the plan while you're going through school? You know, those are things that we don't really talk about. And those are things that, you know, would really set you up for success and probably help, you know, break down some of the trends and the heartaches and all that people face. Because for me, you know, one thing I didn't talk about last time, but when I got out, I remember the day I got out like no other. I remember very, very clearly because I spent a little bit more time putting my uniform together that day, because it was the last time I was ever going to put it on, you know, and somewhat I wasn't ready to let go, just like you weren't ready to let go. I had thought I was going to do 20. My situation, my family situation and all that stuff pulled me away from, you know, from my career in the Army. And so I was getting out and coming back home. But, you know, I remember that. I remember my, you know, taking my time, like really taking my time to make sure, like if I was going to an inspection, you know, that day, because it was the last time I was ever gonna put it on, I wasn't ready. And so, you know, when I got out, even those first couple of months really, but, you know, those first couple of weeks, you know, was like, damn, what do I do now? My body was still waking up at a certain time. I couldn't sleep. Like, I remember being up at all hours because I just had all this anxiety and all this emotion. And like, I was really lost. I was very lost. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, to be honest. You know, I knew I had to go find a job. I knew I had to do this. And, you know, there was things that I knew I had to get done and to do and go out and, you know, find work and all this stuff. But I was just very lost. And you talked earlier about when you got pulled away from your job because of your injury and you were kind of, you know, you're away from your guys and, you know, all that stuff. And then, you know, you get out and you're away from those guys. That brotherhood is second to none. That brotherhood is second to none. And when you lose that all at one time, you know, it can really affect the way that you operate and the way that you think and the way that you're dealing with emotion and, you know, all these other circumstances that are these underlying factors that are, you know, inside that you don't even know exist, really. You're just out of your element. And so what do you turn to? What do? You mask.
Yep.
You mask. And that we talked about it a lot in the last episode with self-medicating, right? It essentially self-medicating is just masking. That's all you're doing, right? It's when you utilize a substance to numb whatever it is that you're feeling, that emotion, you know, to help you sleep, to help you not feel a certain way, whatever it is. That's all it is. That's what self-medicating is. And a lot of people don't even know that self-medicating exists. I didn't know it existed until I, you know, went and started talking to people and they were like, oh, you're self-medicating. I was like, what the hell, self-medicating?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're doing.
Definitely. Because I did it. I did drugs. drank, party. Hey, my door in my apartment's open all the time.
Yeah.
And I just thought I was having fun. That's what I thought I was doing initially. We were just having fun. But now when I look back, the stressors that I was going through, one thing after another, car repossessions, all this stuff, it was just compiling and piling up. And then I would not feel it, like somebody that would normally lose their car. It's like, oh, dang, lost my car. Party.
On the next, right?
Right. But
Yeah.
we'll find another one. No biggie. From where, I don't know. Whatever. And that's just because of the trajectory, the path that I was on was not a good one at all. And then putting myself around people that weren't good. There was no help. They weren't putting me in the right places. It was going backwards.
Well, was there ever a point in time where you decided I've got to get rid of the people that I'm hanging around with?
A couple times. Because I was always cool.
Yeah.
Right. So though I knew that a lot of times the people that I was around was not the people that I should be around. I'm no gangster. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not hard.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. A lot of things that save me is I'm a big guy. Right. But I'm super nice. Right. I'm just a good dude. So, but I put myself in these positions, and because everybody thought that, oh, JR's cool, he's the man.
Yeah.
But they didn't know, while I was on the couch at the party a lot of times, I was like, I should go home. Dang, why didn't I drive?
I can't. There's no escape for me.
Yeah,
I'm stuck.
I'm here now, and now I gotta put on. And so eventually, I just said, I met this pastor. He said, you don't got to tell everybody that you're not hanging out with them no more.
Ooh.
Just stop hanging out. You don't have to call them. You don't have to text. Just stop hanging out. Because eventually, after you stop picking up the phone, they'll stop calling you. Once you become the person that they don't need anymore, they'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
And so it's just like going on your Facebook or your Instagram and eventually just clearing it out a little bit, because you have all these people on there that you don't know at all, right? Because there's no acquaintance button. Everybody's friends. We're not all friends. There's a difference between being an acquaintance and a friend, right? So you just start knocking people off. And that's happened a couple times throughout my life. And now being here, I got to start all the way over. And I really got to be me. These last 4 years of being here, I literally, really, really got to break down and just be who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think for me too, I feel like that's one of the reasons why we ended up living where we live. We're not too far away, and it's only, 45-minute drive to my parents' house and my area where I grew up. But it's far enough away where I could get away from all of those things.
Yes.
And really kind of have a fresh start. Even though I didn't necessarily have the fresh start, I still had to do it all over again years later. But it was one of the reasons why I didn't want to be at home in the first place.
Yeah.
If you could go back to JR, 2005-ish, what are some of the things that you would do different that you learned along the way that would have probably kept you from having those times of sitting there on the couch at a party, or all the heartache and all the things that you went through?
I think I would have, if I can go back and talk to that kid, because that's exactly what I was. Even though I was a grown man, my son was 2. I was definitely a grown guy, but I was acting like a kid. I think I would tell him, look at who you are and what you're becoming, and see what the vision of both of those look like, because you're putting yourself in a position that is going down a serious path of destruction. I was going to self-destruct because I was going to hang around somewhere that's going to get me hurt.
Right.
I definitely would have to go back and say, hey, take a look at how you grew up, who you are. I guess the better way to say it was I used to tell people, when you're walking home from school and you're by yourself, or you're just by yourself, those thoughts is kind of who you are, right? I used to tell the kids, I watch HDTV, or I watch this stuff. During the Christmas time, I watch Hallmark movies with my wife and love them.
Yeah.
I will stay up and binge watch all of those corny movies. But that's who I am.
Yeah.
And learning to tap into that, you will be so much cooler to everybody and everybody will respect you way more.
Yeah.
If you're not this, they're not going to give you that.
Right.
You can even still hang around and they won't pass it to you, or they won't do. He don't do that.
Yeah.
But he's still cool in the mug. But he don't do that.
Yeah.
I had a hard time of being, because I wanted, I guess, leaving out of the military, I wanted to be accepted in something, right? And I didn't have the acceptance of this group anymore.
Right.
So let me, because I can't find them here.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that's close to me. Let me just find that acceptance here. And it wasn't a good place to be.
Yeah. And I think you talk about acceptance, but alongside acceptance is purpose.
Yes.
You know, and so many times when that uniform comes off, you all of a sudden lose this sense of purpose. So you might have your family and you might have kids, and you know that you have to step up and continue to provide and do those things. And there's so many that still slip and fall, and I was one of them. But my sense of purpose was no longer there. Like I felt like, because I was no longer in uniform, I no longer belonged to something that was bigger than myself. And I didn't know how to belong to myself.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
Like it's just one of those things. And I think for a lot of guys, a lot of men and women, again, that are in that transition period, that just like you had culture shock when you went in, you're having that same culture shock coming out, but only this time, like you've a lot of us feel like we've lost that sense of purpose. We've lost a way of life, really, because we no longer belong to something bigger than ourselves. And you got to find that, you know, in your community. You've got to find it, you know, whether, you know, it's working at a small, you know, youth group where, you know, you're taking some youth under, or you're devoting time to, you know, some kind of community program, whatever the case may be. Like, you've got to find those things to help yourself find purpose again. The sooner you could do that, the sooner you'd probably be in a better spot.
Yes, absolutely. Find that purpose quick as possible, right? Because, man, like, it's not fun to just be out here and not knowing anywhere to go. And I really pray that we can help slow that process down for you and help you, give you the tools, whether it's on our website, you run into us, listening to the podcast, quotes and posts that we put on socials that can really help you gather up your thoughts of what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Moving towards those things, and then creating a system around yourself that can help you with those tools.
Right.
With us.
Right.
Right. Because you need boots, right, to suit you. You need us to be a support system. But we also want to help you put together a support system around yourself that can help guide you. And then, you know, I just encourage you guys to be very open.
Be vulnerable.
And vulnerable about what's going on today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to tell somebody about what's going on today, because we need to nip that in the butt right now.
Yeah.
Like, the faster we can start working on the things that are bothering us or taking control of us, or getting to the point where it can take control of you.
Yeah.
We need to get to that.
Well, and not only working on things that are bothering you, but also recognizing what are the things that are bothering you.
Yes.
What's the trigger? What is making you go that route? What is making you do those things? The sooner you recognize those things, you can start to wean yourself away from and start moving to a different direction that'll help you get into a better place.
Yeah. And please know, self-medication could not only just be the drugs, the alcohol. It is things that you're fixated on, right? You can go get tatted every single day, and it's that feeling of that needle. It's those things. It's just whatever you're locking yourself onto.
Yep.
That
is filling a void.
It's
or
filling
numbing.
a void. That's the medication. That's the medication. Not to say you should stop getting tattoos,
but it comes in all different forms, and not just substance abuse or pills or drugs or anything like that. It comes in many different volumes and
sex, porn.
Yeah.
You know, whatever that vice is, that is you believing to help you be at a level of comfortability, your supposed comfortability that you think you're at.
Right.
Whatever you're using as a tool to get you there, we got to recognize if those tools are healthy or not.
Right. Right. And sometimes you don't even know that those are what you're calling tools.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, man. And just another great dive
Yeah.
into all the different things in life that we face as we navigate that transition. And again, like it's not all the same for everybody. Everybody has a different walk. Everybody has a different way of coping. Everybody has a different way of finding purpose again, or not find, or whatever it may be. And I think that's what's so unique about what we're building in this community is that we all have different walks. We all have different ways of navigating and finding ways to get out of that hole that we feel like we dug. And I think that's what it comes down to is identifying that there are so many different ways to dig yourself out of a hole, or you're not even in a hole. You may feel like you're in a hole.
That's it.
But you're not really, you've really not even, cracked the ground yet. There's concrete, there's 5 feet of concrete right there that you're knocking on that you can't get through. But you feel like you're in this deep hole that you can't get out of. And just building a complete community around it to provide those resources for, everybody, to provide those resources for all those that have served in so many ways. And not only that, but, the spouses too. God, that was another thing was spouses reaching out. I desperately want to get my wife on the pod. I talked to her. She's like, maybe later, but I think, it would be cool because I'm sure there's things that I don't know that I made her feel a certain way, or, but, that, also that she would recognize, like, she recognizes in certain situations and could be super beneficial to others. But
Absolutely. I definitely want my wife to come on and have a little fun with, exposing some things, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's always good. One thing that I do, and it'll be real quick, and it takes a lot of courage for me to do this, and I do this only on long rides. So every year we take a trip to Tennessee. And at some point, either it's on the way there or on the way back, I'll gather up the courage and I'll say, hey, over the last 6 months, how would you give me a grade? And you can't give me an A, because if you give me an A, you're a liar, right? And it takes a while because I have to brace myself, because I want her truth, right? I want her to be very truthful in the grade she gives, and then explain why I'm getting the grade. And that gives her a free opportunity with no pressure to say, hey, you got to C or you got to B, and this is why. And then I can in turn go, okay, so this I've been doing my whole life. And it's not to say I won't change those things, but I'm asking for your grace. This and this, I didn't even know I was doing that, and it was a bother to you. I can change that today.
Right.
Right. And it just gives you that space to be able to do those things.
Well, a lot of times we're just not cognizant of some of those things that we're doing. And once we are made aware, now we're cognizant of them. And the next time you do it, you're like, oh, wait, that was that thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so it'd be good to have the wives on the show, because sometimes, that they get to see things that we don't get to see that we're doing, and some good things that we maybe doing.
Maybe the way we go about it is we get a babysitter and we have them.
Yeah, put them both on.
Put them both on at the same time.
Let them go.
Maybe
we'll walk out of the room. We can control the board from outside the room. Then they really have no pressure. And then they just get to just ramble on about what it is. But yes, they are so important to the way we move and helping guide us to be functionable. I really enjoy that. Like, my wife can see it. She can see it. And she's good at redirecting. And she's very good at redirecting me. If we're out and about and something's just not right, she's good at, about face. She's good at that, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it, because there could be little triggers here and there, and she's very good at recognizing when I'm a little on edge, and so I deeply appreciate that, and I appreciate all you guys out there that are doing that for your spouses, whether it's the husband doing it for the wife or the wife doing it for the husband. I really appreciate you guys, because I don't want to say no one, but no one is really looking out for you guys. There's not that I know of places for you guys to go let off and be able to get some assistance for yourselves. Right. So please tap in.
Yeah.
Y'all tap in, or if you know somebody, your girlfriend or coworkers, please have them tap in and let us know, so we can be able to provide you some assistance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're here to build a community, and that's all we want to do, is build a community for our military men and women and spouses, and family members, because ultimately it's us, and we have that brotherhood, right? That we don't want to give up, and we need to be able to continue on and continue forward. And so building a community where we can, save a life, save a marriage, all those things, is what we're here for. Hey, once again, we appreciate you guys being out here with From Boots to Suits. We've got our great coffee mugs on the website, www.frombootstosuits.com. Check it out. We've also got some other merch on there. All the funds that we are getting in from merchandise and apparel is 100% going on to being able to do those virtual workshops, how to open a business, how to write your resume, how to do all those things. 100% of all those proceeds go to helping us continue to do what we're doing and what we're building and go back into our community. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next week.
Yeah.